Robert Roth, I feel like I just saw you like 3 hours ago.
That's because you did.
I just recorded my very first Tales from a Pandemic Geezers of Gear episode this morning with Robert Roth, and we got some recipes and all kinds of things.
It was a blast.
David Milley is doing safe boating right now. Okay, so what have we got here with Mr. Patrick Dearson? I got to do all my weekly check-ins here with.
I just landed at Heathrow. I'm actually looking for my rock.
Oh my God, that's funny. That is funny. Hey, do any of you guys follow this guy, Mark, and I forget how to say his last name, but it's Ribelay. He's a electronic music guy.
No.
Nobody knows him. You have to check this guy out. He does these Facebook Live things, like I don't know how often, once a week or something. And he basically uses these looping devices and all kinds of noise things and MIDI, like a keyboard. And he makes up a song on the go. So somebody will call in and say, you know, pandemic, and he'll make up a song about pandemic, and he'll do it for 15, 20 minutes. But he's weird as hell, but super talented. And almost every time he does the recording, he's in like a kimono robe kind of thing. The other day he did it in a pair of briefs, like just in his underwear. But you got to check him out, Mark Ribelay. Sooner, you must know this guy. Come on, man. You people are in the music business and you don't know Mark Ribelay. I wish, if I knew how to say it, it'd probably be helpful. Steve Warren, you got to know him.
How you doing? I'm afraid I don't, man.
What
I was
the hell?
waiting for the link in the chat.
Well, I am going to go find it because it's that important to me right now.
It's Mark with a C.
Yeah.
It's Rebillet.
Yep.
Kind of like one of them Canadian names.
I don't remember if he's Canadian. He very well may be. Maybe that's why I follow him. So hang on. Let me see if I can share this with you somehow.
Definitely looks interesting.
Oh, no, I don't want to share that with you. Let me see if I can somehow share this. And I don't know if I can. Wow, this is really exciting television, isn't it? Sorry, but I'm on to something here that I just have to do. Okay, you can see it, but you can't friggin' hear it. Why not? How can I turn this up? Well, anyways, that's the dude.
minutes long.
That's the dude. Now you get where I come off on the weird look thing. But the music is incredible. You'll just have to take my word for it.
He looks like the older brother from Napoleon Dynamite.
He kind of acts like him.
Marcel, why don't you invite him to next week's and have him do a song for us?
I think that's what we should do. Yeah. We'll get Dearson and him wearing the same robe or something. Cheers, everyone, at noon Western Pacific time and whatever the hell. Oh, wait, do we have Bob Harmon?
It's too early for him.
Yeah, we might have actually found his limit on this one.
He doesn't get up this early.
Marcel, did it work? Do we have some Europeans?
Well, we have Steve Warren, who stays up all night anyway, so that doesn't matter. Is anyone else on here from Europe right now?
No, come on, man. You change the time, especially as well.
I know. Because
I know.
all
I
these
was
people
hoping
said
we'd
they
have
wanted
a strong showing.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed.
Me neither.
I'll get some good people for you.
Well, that was this week because we changed it. Now I just look stupid because we're all drinking midday.
What's wrong with that?
We're crushed.
Yeah. We got a really
You act
slow
like that's a
start here
change.
too. I'm just saying I'm probably going to want to change it back just because we got about half as many people as we did last week at this time. And so I think the time just killed us. So I finally figured out the background thing today, as you can tell. And I am in some sort of apocalyptic scene thing here. So
It's your backyard, isn't it, Marcel?
that's my yard. Yeah. Yeah.
I knew it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is my yard.
Hey, Dearson, I was watching CNN today, and your governor's all over the news, talking about wanting to reopen everything up.
Oh yeah, he's
Or the governor. I'm sorry, the mayor.
mayor. Yeah, so the governor's bucking everybody. The mayor is gung ho to go for it. You know, of course, there's a lot of dichotomy as to who wants it and who doesn't. I think the real question is how long they can sustain it without opening things up. So there was I'm not sure if everybody's seen it, but the head of MGM, whose name is escaping me at the moment, their CEO left a few weeks ago, and he left and petitioned to their board of directors that he be allowed to leave to join the Nevada governor as the head of the COVID task force. In doing so, it technically broke his contract, so his golden parachute would have been out the window. And his petition to the board was that he get to retain his severance package of $32 million, which they placed him on. And now he's in charge of our COVID task force here on the side of the governor, who doesn't want to open everything up right away. Mayor, of course, is, for the most part, collectively out of line.
Well, wasn't your mayor like a lawyer for the mob or something too previously?
Yeah. And then, but more importantly, 2 days ago, Matt, CEO out of the Wynn, put out an open letter with intent how they would go about reopening Las Vegas.
What are gas
So,
prices at?
what's kind of happened in the last 48
The one I
hours.
saw was like 189.
It's
$189.
I know, but it wasn't our.
Hang on, it's really interesting because somebody's making a deal while we're on this call right now, and I'm trying to figure out whose mic is on.
I forgot where it was, but it wasn't cheap.
Interesting.
I think that's Hunter.
That was interesting.
So anyway, we've got these two CEOs
Sorry about
basically
that.
trying to sway public opinion as to opening up quickly.
Right.
It's going to be interesting.
So is it true that that Wynn is trying to open Le Rev?
The plan on Le Rev was that they would go down to one performance a day with full sanitization of the theater itself and some special treatments that the performers would have to go through for being in the water. I'm not exactly sure how that scientifically propagates to anything according to this virus, but
Right.
no.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it was a very well thought out, very, very detailed list on the Wynn side as to how they wanted to go about doing it. Valet services would be suspended. People would be, nobody's allowed in without first going through thermal scanners. A whole breakdown as to degrees of temperature and what would happen to you at various points. If you were over 100, I think you were just denied access to the property, things like that. And it was very well thought out, but it is also very much a political push because they're.
Isn't that Vegas in general? If you're over 100 years old, you're not allowed in.
No, usually we just push them out to the outskirts and they go to the suburbs.
Yeah. So a couple things I wanted to mention. One is that I don't know if you guys saw today, but the new stimulus package for $483 billion was pushed through the Senate and is expected to be signed tomorrow by the president. That includes another $200 and some odd billion in funding for the PPP program. And I was one of the companies that did not get in on the first one. And it's funny because we just learned 2 days ago in a conference call with our banker, because we applied the very first day. And we learned 2 days ago on a call with our banker that it was indeed their fault, that our application never actually went through to the SBA. It was caught on basically the equivalent of a typo. And instead of fixing that, it sat in underwriting and never left underwriting at the bank level. So it never actually went to the SBA. So, you know, we're very high up the list, like we're near the front of the line for this next round of funding. So we're anticipating getting some sort of funding. And Robert, you can see, is on this call. He's still gloating because he got his last week and he was one of the early ones to get it. So congratulations. And since that time, I've known lots and lots of businesses who have got it, thank God. So I know it's very helpful to a lot of you, and it will be helpful to us as well. So we're very appreciative, and I am now a socialist and ready to take government money for sure. The other thing I wanted to mention is, I don't know if any of you saw it, and Patrick Whalen is on the call with us right now. So Patrick did something, he did an industry panel, and I forget what it was called exactly. The show must go on, something or other, right, Patrick?
Yep, show must go on. That's correct.
And Patrick had a really, really great list of people on there, including Ray Waddell from Polestar, Jim Digby, Stuart Ross, Jake Berry, Alex Hodges, and on and on and on. He had a really good list of panelists, and basically just a really, if you haven't seen it, go on YouTube. I think he's already got about 9,000 or 10,000 views. So we're lucky to even have Patrick on with us right now that he's a big star. But Patrick, maybe you can talk a few minutes about some of the highlights of that, because it really was, I thought, very, very informative.
Yeah, I mean, it was, first off, thank you. It did way better than any of us thought. I mean, I was thinking we would get 500 to 1,000 people viewing it, and we were hovering right around 9,000 now, I think, or something like that. And it was put together because I wanted to have sort of a diverse group of people, not just necessarily production industry, but sort of everybody. And, you know, even Ray Waddell was skeptical that we would even pull it off, and we did. And I mean, to have, you know, an agent, a promoter, a tour manager, a production manager, a tour accountant, and so on, all on the same panel. I mean, you know, I don't know if there's been something like that ever. There might have been. And so if I if there is, I apologize for not having that information.
No, but incredible camaraderie to have all of those different disciplines talking to each other. You know, wow, what a concept.
And it was a great discussion, and we put together fairly quick, and I thank everybody for jumping on it at the last minute. You know, very similar to how you start everyone, and I will admit this on this discussion, I stole your exact lines, which is, this is not political, we're not doctors, and this isn't medical, and we're not going to have answers today, but we'll have some more information. And really listening to Jake and Stuart at the beginning talk about how it's kind of changed, and you know, as we see productions happening in the future, and Jake was one of the big things from Jake was, you know, our advance is going to change for life. I mean, the crew's going to have rubber gloves and masks just like they wear hard hats and safety vests. Yeah. You know, and that's going to be the new norm for a long time. And you know, there's a little bit of discussion going back and forth, and Marcel, you and I had this talk today about what I called spot touring, and you know, where as cities and states open up, there, you know, these artists like Metallica, you know, Adams groups, Poison, Metallica, Def Leppard, they don't need to tour right now. They can wait until all 50 states are opened up and the country's opened up, and globally they can go anywhere. They can do that, no problem. But the B stage artist that plays on the Vans Warped Tour, that depends on playing at First Avenue, and First Avenue depends on having them come in, or some of the other clubs or theaters. That's a bigger issue. And so, you know, how is that going to impact what we're doing? And if somebody gets sick, the band, the crew, patrons at the events, how far back does that push us? You know, and so that was one of our other, I guess, big hot points is how are we going to stay safe once we go back to work, so we don't go back into quarantine again sooner than later and torpedo our own industry.
Well,
So-
one of the points that I thought was incredible that somebody made, and Jake Berry kind of sort of seconded it and said this was, you know, one of the great things that I've heard all week or whatever, was somebody referenced or used the analogy that the house is on fire, the house is still on fire, and we don't want to be rushing into the house, you know?
Right.
So we need to take our time. We need to get in the house, but while it's burning, we're not going to send our people into it. And that made a lot of sense. I mean, you know, I've been running into the burning house since the moment it started fire, saying, let's go, let's go, let's go. But there is some sensibility. And, you know, so, I mean, yeah, I thought that was a really cool point and just a great discussion. I mean, and I'll include the link. Send me if you think of it, just shoot me a text or an email or something with the link, Patrick, and I'll put it on the email.
Sure.
After this.
I'll send it, you know, and one of the other things that, and I'll name Stuart as the author of this one is that Stuart had a point about, you know, if we go in too soon and now we're at settlement and you're at settlement and you say, okay, we sold out, we've got 10,000. However, 2,000 of those were tested where they have a temperature, if that's what we're going to use. So and we refunded their money. You know, that's a pretty hard way to tour, because now you're going to start having refunds on site that you didn't agree to because people weren't allowed into the arena. And I thought that was an interesting perspective. We didn't touch on it very long, but we did talk about it. And I talked to Stuart yesterday about this too, is that could be a really, really big problem, especially when you start doing the small to mid-size, where every dollar is counting, and all of a sudden, you know, if and I'm just throwing this out there, if we're using some sort of metric of a fever or not versus not fever, that could be a real problem. We didn't go down that rabbit hole because we can't, but you know, it's just one more thing to think about, and we all are in agreement that it's going to be tough to do much of anything major in 2020. And we've all, every panel and every Zoom meeting and all the private discussions we all have, we kind of have figured that out. It's just really watching what the younger artists do and the smaller artists and the smaller clubs and theaters do. And, you know, the festivals, so, you know, the small garlic festival, the strawberry festival, you know, your town festival that knows that people are itching to do something and are not necessarily going to be defiant, but they've had their restrictions loosened up. So now they go in and start trying to do stuff. I know every single person on this, as a production company owner or a crew person, would be like, fuck yeah, let's get on that. But, you know, once again, if that goes sideways in any way, you know, what is the ripple effect that happens behind that?
Hey, Pat, this is Greg Jones. In your role, is that an opportunity? Do you see any of these new processes, whether it be temperature reading? You know, that's a whole lot of staff at a show. Is that something that our industry would want to look at and take on as part of the package, right?
Well,
as an outside the box business idea,
let me jump in on one thing so there's been discussions we had somebody from an arena that wanted to come in and talk, and then at the last minute was yanked out for other obvious reasons. And they were talking about having their security staff taking temperatures. And, you know, not to put down security staff at concerts at entrances, but I mean, they have a hard enough time sometimes scanning a ticket, let alone reading the thermometer correctly, you know, from a head scan. Not to mention, if you're outside at a festival or you're outside waiting to get in Staples Center and it's 100 degrees out, guess what you're going to have when you walk in from the sun beating on your head, especially like me, you're going to have a temperature. and you're not going to get let in because you tested positive, or you're going to go put ice on your head if you're sick so you can go see the show or take Tylenol. So that's one part of it. But to go back into it, I guess there would be opportunity for our industry to do it. I think the liability would be not worth it, though. I mean, if you're the company or the service that's providing, say, the safety side of making sure that people are COVID-19 free, and somebody tests positive at the arena, I would imagine you're going to be at the top of the list, or one of the top 2 people on that list for any kind of lawsuit. So,
yeah, but at the same time, so I brought this up to you a little bit earlier. Somebody has to do something. Somebody has to break that, break the ice in our industry. And so what if a group of really, really smart people, Jake Berry, an independent promoter, because as I said to you earlier, Patrick, I think, and I don't know if there's anybody from the big guys here, Live Nation, AG, whatever, but I think if we were to get an independent promoter, you're going to get maybe a different view than you would from a
100%. But I'm to answer,
so,
yeah.
But if we put together a group of really smart people and we set the bar very high, you need to create an event. And let's say it's hypothetical for right now, but you need to create an event for 50,000 people, a festival style event at an outdoor amphitheater somewhere. And you have to have 0 infections. The event has to go off by July 15th. And it has to meet all, national and state criteria or laws or whatever else. I think our industry is an industry of problem solvers, and we could figure this out. And so what does that do? Number one, they know if you fail, the entire industry's on your shoulders. And if you fail, we probably won't be working anytime soon. If you succeed, guess what? You've saved our industry basically, and you've figured out sort of the code to get shows to happen. And am I being unrealistic by thinking that there's a way, like that we could figure this out? And not that I'm anyone.
I mean,
there's definitely a way to do it. I mean, it's just a matter of, how much time, energy, expense are people willing to invest in this, to make it happen? And what does that mean to the patrons attending? Does the $100 ticket now become a $500 ticket?
No, I mean, you're going to do it at break even or at a loss, but the loss isn't going to be as great as 12 months without work. And so, to me, massive incentive drives massive innovation. And the incentive in this is that you're saving our entire industry. You're figuring out a way that we can go forward and do shows, as opposed to figuring out how to live with no work or no money or no whatever. And so I don't know. I'm just, I'm thinking out loud that if someone were basically to create another roundtable discussion like what Patrick did, but the goal of that discussion is to figure out how to do a show. And again, hypothetically, nobody's got a gun to their head, your job isn't on the line or anything, but hypothetically, could we do this? Take away all barriers, take away all problems, could we do this? And I don't know. Like I think we're an industry of problem solvers. When people come to me and they say, how can we do this? I usually spit out 10 different ways that I think we could do it. I don't really hang on to the 1 or 2 or 10 reasons we can't do it. So
one thing I'm wondering, and we've thought about here, is there an option to do temporary residency tours, where you go to a city for 3 days, smaller crowds, multiple shows per day, to help bring up some revenue. And
absolutely.
That was one of our subjects on the town hall was like, are we going to do, are you going to put U2 or someplace in a theater or in a smaller venue? And of course, U2 and Metallica said no, they don't want to do that. But I think that there is a potential to do residencies and to do longer stays and to do, and maybe the seating is further apart. Mm-hmm. The problem is that we keep talking about is that we're talking about the single show or the tour, but there's a lot of factors that go into that of how are you transporting your artist safely? How are you going to go from airport to hotel to bus night after night and not affect everybody. And so there's a lot of different, it seemed like there were a lot of different ideas, but the overall or the underlying problem is that until the testing gets to a point where we can figure out how we can control that testing, whether you get a card or it's something on your phone or you've had COVID and you can prove it. I mean, you know, that was.
Yeah, but Patrick, again, we're looking at why we can't do it. So, you know, you just mentioned it. How do you get people on and off buses safely? And like, what if we went to crazy extremes and we said, okay, for the touring personnel, we're going to deal with it. Everybody's going to be tested every day. Treat it just like the White House. The president is in and out of crowds all day. He ain't getting sick. The other people around him aren't getting sick. People are tested before they go into every room in the White House. You're tested sometimes 4 or 5 times a day, you know, not just twice a week or whatever. So if touring personnel were treated the same way and constantly tested, you've dealt with that side of it. Now people, and I have the craziest halfway through a glass of wine idea I've ever thought of in my life. What if you had drive-in concerts? You know, like a drive-in movie theater where you drive in and, you know, you turn on your stereo system in your car and it's a live feed off the stage and the band's right in front of you. I know it's an insane, stupid idea, but I'm saying if you go all the way to something that stupid and then you start inching your way back.
Sure. What happens when you have to take a piss though?
Yeah, concessions was what I've talked to somebody about that. It was concessions, restrooms are all the
Well, I haven't thought all the way through it, guys.
Damn it, Marcelo, if you're going to bring an idea up, then you better have this thought through.
Patrick, fuck off. I haven't thought all the way through this, all right? You know, I'm just
hang on a minute here.
spitballing.
That doesn't help our PA folks.
Well, and it wouldn't be the first time I pissed my pants at a concert too, you know? So I'm just kidding.
Look, everybody's ignoring the social pressure of society to get back together. The society is going to push this forward in a way in which most of us will not be in control of.
That's a very good point.
Society is already reaching a point in North America, in the United States, where a large number of people have had it with this. And the risks that continue to get publicized, negative or positive, are all going to be overwhelmed by man's interest in being part of a tribe. And, you know, everybody can doomsday this stuff all day long. We're not in control of it. The elected officials, as Mike Strickland wrote a really, really good piece that was in, I think it was PLSN recently.
Yeah.
It's on their site. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The politicians, it's well thought through and it's balanced. The politicians and the elected officials are in control of this. We are not in control. And the glass is still 2/3 full. And I do not believe that it is practical in any manner, shape, or form to put together a large gathering, because let's forget all the rest of it. When it's time to leave, we're all going to queue up 6 foot apart after everybody's had, you know, arbitrarily 1 beer. Although we all know most of it's going to be a little different than that. This is.
But I thought you were going a different direction with that, because I think today the politicians might be in control, but watch what's happening. The crowd are getting a little bit
Well, what I'm saying is
now.
the politicians still make the decrees, but the politicians are responsible at some point to the body politic. That's society.
Yeah.
And
no, but what you're seeing right now, I think, with all of these protests that are going on and stuff, is people kind of rising up and saying enough already. You know, we want to go to concerts, we want to go to movie theaters, we want to go to restaurants. We understand there's a risk in doing that. And, you know, it's the same reason that people skydive and race cars and, you know, do all of these other things. We know the dangers and we do it anyways, because that's part of human nature, right?
I mean, let's talk about something that we all probably, hopefully, don't think is a good idea: drinking and driving. You know, once I was in an educational situation a long time ago. Does anybody here know how many people the authorities arrest as a percentage of the number of people who drink over the legal limit and get behind the wheel?
No, I don't have that in front of me.
12%.
Interesting.
I'm surprised the number is that high, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But of course, we live in Wisconsin, so it's a different skewed scale.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're seeing this already with, Los Angeles or California. We're going to be up in the 90s. All of the beaches are closed. All of the parks are closed. I think you're going to see sort of a social mutiny happen this weekend, and hopefully that helps a little bit kind of push some thought process and maybe change some people's ideas, because I think everybody's going to hit the beach. I think everybody's going to get outside because they're sick and tired of it here, and they want to get out and be social. They want to see their friends.
Yeah.
Patrick, you bring up Strickland's article was spot on, but it's a process, right? Like, everyone on this call wants to go to the beach. I want to go to a friggin' bar and enjoy a nice Italian meal. All of that has to happen first before we get to all of us on this call, meaning live events, right? And so I'm hoping for all these things in a safe way, because they're all going to come before us. You see what I'm saying? So Robert, you're right that I don't know, just.
Well, events aren't going to be first. That's for sure. I mean,
we're last in line.
Yeah.
Big events are not going to be first. You're going to have small concerts. You're going to have small corporate meetings, and they're going to be taking precautions. And depending how that goes, then the next step up and the next step up and the next step up. You're not going to go 0 to 60 and have a giant outdoor U2 concert. That's just not going to happen. They're not going to let that happen. But I mean, I've gotten 3 calls this morning about possible, people doing, little mini events. And it's not about a bunch of guests getting there, but it's about, lighting a building. It's about doing a small corporate meeting with, a few people. These are the phone calls that, I got 3 this morning. I was pretty excited.
Well, to Patrick's point, you talk about the potential for social mutiny. I've been a member of the crowd when Master of Puppets comes on at the concert. There's no, we'll be a couple of seats apart. Like, that's just not going to happen. And so you look at your average arena security guard, and that old lady is swimming in her father's jacket, much less being able to control 10,000 people starting a mosh pit. Like, we have bigger social issues to deal with, just in the nature of what we have helped cultivate for the last 80 years of concert.
You have lovely mushrooms, Patrick, today.
Thank you. The snozberries taste like snozberries.
That's funny.
Delicious.
So what about, so last week I had a conversation with a manager, a certain manager that many of us know out of California. And I talked about this concept that Patrick brought up, that Patrick's calling spot touring, which is basically, and I'm going to make up states because I don't know which ones exactly have virtually no effect from all of this. But let's say it's, North Dakota, Minnesota, whatever, Wyoming, Iowa, Ohio. Let's say there's 29 states, because I think that's what the number was that the government was talking about that had minimal effects right now. But will bands put together a tour of 29 states and skip LA and skip New York City and skip Chicago, potentially Detroit? Will they put together a tour if you can't do all of the cities?
Hell yes.
And I wish Granger was still here, because he'd be a good guy to ask that question. But who said hell yes?
I did. I absolutely think they're going to start going on the road as fast as they can. I mean, they have no other income. They're all, we've got stagehands in LA living in their car right now. So any kind of opportunity to work, they're going to take it.
Yeah, I'm betting it depends on the band, right? Like there's a difference from Metallica to the band that's grinding club tours.
Yeah, but
Oh
I
yeah,
think
if you've
we've
been
already
on the B stage at Warped Tour, you're going to take that 29 city tour in a heartbeat.
Let me take it to something a little more basic. Back in the days of the dawn of the Atlanta music scene, which was maybe slightly before my time, maybe not. There used to be concerts every weekend in Piedmont Park, and the concerts were free, and a lot of people showed up. We're not too far from social revolt here. That kind of stuff isn't going to happen. That some band or some group of bands is not going to go, hey, let's go play for the people. I mean, the commercial aspect of it is important to all of us, but I still say that the social aspect of this is going to take over and drive it. The incubation period allegedly on the disease is significantly longer than you can prove. If let's pretend we're going to Metallica, okay? Me and Dearson over there, and we're going to go watch Master of Puppets from the mosh pit. But we stop at McDonald's on the way there, and we go through the drive-through, right? And we get some food, and then we're all COVID clean and all that, and we come home, and 2 weeks later we're both sick. And who's to prove that the sickness didn't come from the worker at McDonald's handing us the hamburgers? Okay. This is not very easy to prove. And because of the long incubation period and the inability to contact trace at a level that rivals some kind of science fiction movie, this the overload factor for people in isolation is going to take over. That's just my thing. Maybe I'm completely wrong and I have no experience with crowds or concerts or anything, but
But I don't think you are that wrong. Like I've seen so many podcasts and discussions where people are saying, are people going to spend money on tickets? Are people going to want to go to a concert? I don't think that's the issue. I really personally.
Will they be allowed to do it is really the thing.
Will they be allowed to do it? And
I agree with
will
Rob.
there be too many liability
completely.
issues at the top?
We're a social race, and we want to connect. And one of the things that's really starting to get under my skin watching the news and being inadvertently told that we're not essential. Here, essential business is essential business. I understand that essential in this concept of food and shelter, and air and medicine, but to be subvertly reminded that we're not essential industry is really heartbreaking, because we've shared communication with human people in art forms the entire history of mankind with cave drawings and tribal dances, and there's all these conversations about how we're going to have an influx of depressed people and suicide rates and all this. They're talking about that, but they're not addressing how we can mitigate that.
Yeah,
but I think that at the end of it, you talk about everybody wanting to get together and go see a band. But ultimately, the government has to approve that that's going to happen. And that's what, regardless of how, righteous the people are and we want to see bands and all that, the government, if they don't want them to see them, they're going to step in and shut it down. I don't think it's just as easy as everybody going out to a park and seeing a band.
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been parties in Manhattan that they've shut down already. People are having parties, and people are going to parties, and the cops are showing up and handing out $1,000 tickets. So
that opens a whole nother conversation about First Right Amendment violations. How can they do that? They can suggest we don't gather, but they can't penalize us for doing so.
Yeah, you watched the David Guetta from Miami. David Guetta broadcast live from Miami, and
yeah, that was cool.
They were flying the drones up past all these, condos and apartment buildings. And there was one that's got 60 people on this balcony watching David Guetta,
Yeah, I saw that.
So, and he's like, social distancing is important except for apartment 1A.
Is Tiffany's not here this week, is she? I assume most people saw that Prince thing last night. I think Tiffany worked on that, right?
Yeah, it was Firestone was designer. Yeah, I was impressed by it. It was nice to see some production value on television.
Yeah,
of recorded beforehand, but you know, the ones that they've been doing since we've shut down, they certainly they lack the panache.
Yeah, they're not quite the same, are they? Well, like the David Guetta one that Patrick just talked about, I think he had two like American DJ or ADJ, you know, pars or whatever. Eric, could you confirm nor deny that?
Yeah, speaking, I just want to announce that I booked my tea time for Friday. So
oh, there you go. Golf courses are open.
Where are you playing?
Orange County.
Oh, that's right.
Orange County, Monarch Beach is open tomorrow.
We're going to come down there and take over your whole city. You wait till this weekend, buddy. We're on our way.
I'm going to play this afternoon. The course is closed. I don't give a shit.
Let's see how that goes, John.
That's the exact problem I was talking about.
That's funny. Yeah. Welcome aboard, John.
I don't know. Did anybody else, most of you were on this call probably, did anybody else watch Anderson Cooper and the mayor of Vegas going at it for half an hour? That was funny.
I can't watch that guy.
Me
Sorry.
Me neither.
Yeah. The mayor of Vegas, you know, what's so interesting about her is that, you know, only in Nevada, only in Las Vegas could you have Mayor Goodman followed by his wife, Mayor Goodman. And oh, by the way, the original Mayor Goodman was the mob's attorney. I mean, you can't fucking make this up.
Yeah, it's a tough one to write that story. Yeah.
You're muted, Mark.
Sorry. I said that's what makes living here good.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I was telling a story the other day that I had one of my next door neighbor walked over, and he's a ear, nose, and throat surgeon, and his phone rang, and he answered the phone, and there was this, he put it on speakerphone, and this guy was ranting. I mean, just ranting. Fuck Sisolak, that's the governor here, and who the fuck does this guy think he is? And then it was funny because it segued into, I'm losing $14 million a week, and then it went to, and we can't even golf, right? So I'm kind of laughing, and he hangs up, and I go, who the hell was that? He goes, oh, that's Maxon, the CEO of Wynn. And I go, oh, really? You know him? He goes, yeah, I'm his medical consultant. And he said, the guy was going, you just watch, we're going to go after these guys. And the next day is when the mayor came out with that statement of how ridiculous it was, followed 2 days later by the same guy going, the Wynn guy going, we're opening up. So it's just like, it's still the Wild West, guys. I love it out here.
Well, the Wynn is the first hotel that is actually laid out exactly how they're going to do it and what they're going to do in order to reopen.
Yeah, the guy was, he was ranting about it. He was ranting about it in my driveway.
That's funny.
What is the Wynn plan? How they're going to open? I'm kind of interested in that.
It's a fight.
They're not saying they're going to open, but when they do, they already have their plan. They're going to give each guest a mask, and everybody's got to wear gloves, limiting the amount of people in the restaurants. And all.
They're going to book every other room, every other hotel room.
They've got a whole plan laid out of how they're going to do it.
I think what he did is he just said, look, we're going to do this without any green light or approval from the governor. And then he went further. He didn't wait for them to say, well, how are you going to do this? He laid it out for them to go, look, here's my plan. You got something better. This is what we're going to do. It kind of shut them up because they haven't been able to push back other than, they haven't said that's a bad plan. They haven't said you can't do this. They've done everything but stand the guy up. And I think he's going to march forward with it. It's going to be really interesting.
Well, the Wynn was the first hotel to shut down too. They were the first one before anything happened, they were the first one to shut it all down. So interesting to see if they're the first ones to come back.
Hey, John, you got on a little bit late, but I wanted to get your opinion on a couple things. One was that Patrick Whalen had a panel on Monday that included, a lot of pretty, significant players, Ray Waddell, Jim Digby, Stuart Ross, Jake Berry, Alex Hodges.
Good bunch.
Yeah, a really, really great bunch that Patrick pulled together on a sort of roundtable discussion. And so one of the things that came out of that was this concept that Patrick's calling spot touring. And number one, do you think that maybe not Metallica because they don't need to go out and tour, or Beyonce, but if you go down a couple notches on those to, the Styx of the world or Journey or whoever, and a lot of other acts that are much newer than those. Those just popped into my head. But can bands go to do a tour of the United States and not Europe? And can they do a tour of the United States without New York City, without LA, without Chicago, without Detroit, until those cities are okay to have a show with, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 people?
Look, I think if they're allowed to do that, I mean, look, we can all have great ideas, just like the guy with the win. He can say whatever he's going to do, but I'll go back to the municipalities. If you book a spot tour where they do all these selected positions, and then you're rolling into Des Moines, and the mayor the night before says, "I'm pulling your permit to have a show," you're fucked. So you're not dealing with just one big governing body. You're dealing with mayors and governors and councilmen and every asshole who has an opinion that wants to be on TV right now. So I think it's a great idea, Patrick. I think it's probably here's what I think is going to happen. I think that it's going to revolve around the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. And when those guys decide to get in a room together with everybody, so two great things are going to happen. Two great things could happen. The one great thing is they could all fucking die. That'd be fine, right? The second great thing would be that it goes off really well and it becomes an afterthought, right? So, I mean, I think those are the two choices. I see nobody disagreeing with me, right? So I think it's going to.
I think there's a bit of shock in the room right now, John.
Yeah.
Combine the conventions and just have one big one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, but so I think really we're at the whim of a bunch of people that have been in Washington D.C. for 50 years who haven't done a fucking thing but complain about how it is, and they're the ones that have set the table. So those guys, unfortunately, are going to set the tone for what happens because we've voted them in and they're in charge and they have a lot.
But I wonder what would ever happen, and this is just a stupid complaint, but what would ever happen if we tied their pay to our pay? You know what I mean? Like when we're making money, you're making money. Until then, guess what? Maybe their decisions might change. I don't know.
Are you hitting the crack pipe again? First of all, no, they would have to agree to it. So that's. But so look, I think what changes this thing is a spot tour like Patrick and those guys that talked about. I think it's a fantastic idea, but you'd have to have like 5 lawyers on the road with you. Ahead of you every city, filing papers to make sure that you got to do your show, and it becomes economically and impossible to do. So I think when the conventions happen, they're all going to fucking die, or they're all going to just go, oh well, that wasn't that big a deal, and then it's just the dam's going to break. I just got off the phone with a client that had canceled a lot of the shows, and I said, what's going on? They said, we're going to go in August. I said, are you sure? They said, yeah, and we're marching. Of course, it could change, but we're marching hard towards August. So everyone's telling me August, September, October. But I think really,
are you collecting non-refundable deposits yet?
Of course. I'm having them sent to my Swiss bank account. I didn't tell Jerry though. Right. So at the end of the day, it's like I really have kind of come to the conclusion in the last couple of days that what happens at the conventions, I firmly believe is gonna probably drive the narrative. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, once again, I think you're really spot on there, John. But before then, we've got people like the great governor of Georgia who said that we can open health clubs here, right? We're going to see some pretty interesting petri dish experiments in the next few weeks here. I mean, and
I think you're absolutely right. There's also
talk that some 55 times the number of people they think they've identified who's been exposed to this virus have been exposed to it. One of my doctors said something to me a few weeks ago. He went, Robert, the best thing that can happen is everybody gets the thing and we get on with life.
My personal opinion, for whatever it's worth, is that look, I think it's clearly it's a virus. It's contagious, maybe more than flu or whatever. But I think the thing's fucking bullshit. If I was in charge, I'd say, look, everyone that's over a certain age that has a health problem, you need to stay home. You need to take care of yourself, and you need to be a little bit more on alert. Everyone with you know, who's coming out of chemo or coming out of whatever, you know, you need to take care of yourself. And the other 90% of us need to get the fuck back to work. I think that the metric that they're drawing from, it's just my own personal opinion, is complete fucking bullshit. You know, it's I think it's crap. You know, you can't say a certain percentage of people died. A certain percentage of what?
Well,
right?
It's like the analogy that I keep using for take cars off the road until we can 100% guarantee that there will never be a car accident. 0 car accidents is our goal.
Well, yeah, but the difference about that is, and I agree with that, Marcel, but I heard a good argument against that said basically, well, if you go outside and you're with a neighbor who's got a viral disease, you're not going to catch a car crash. You're going to catch a viral disease. So it is a little bit different. Hold on.
Hold on. I don't think he meant we can't talk anymore. So a few of us have been doing all the talking. Anybody else have anything to say? Bob Harmon, it's very nice to see you. It was quite early in the day for you. We appreciate that. And by the way, all of these said Europeans who really wanted to come, other than Roel, who's here, and Steve Warren, who's here, none of them showed up. So I say, screw them. We're going back to 5 o'clock Eastern time, 2 o'clock Pacific time, and
yeah, we can't have a drink yet. It's kind of
9 a.m. is a little early, guys.
Yeah, sorry. We definitely thought about you. Patrick Dearson said, I don't remember the words he used exactly, but it was something along the lines of Harmon's fucked. So.
Hey, well, I want one thing that's kind of interesting. Well, we're the only state with a moat, and we actually have a chance of, eliminating it here. That said, they've extended our stay-at-home through May to the end of it.
Okay.
But on the other hand, there's some discussion to do testing at airports that come into Hawaii. We actually could become the healthful destination, which could be a game changer for us.
That's interesting.
I'll come ride it out in Hawaii.
Yeah. I don't have much issue with that. There's worse places you could be told to stay at home.
Yeah, that was
right. Well, imagine that you check in for a flight in Chicago and that 2 hours of security, now it's going to be 3 hours. But when you check in before you get into the secured space, you take a 15-minute test, you're clean. Now you're into the clean zone, and the airlines don't have to worry about reconfiguring an aircraft because you've already proven clean. If not, Ray, you and the family might be leaving, or you're just going to send the kids home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brought up.
Abu Dhabi that's got the blood test at the airport now, where you take a 10-minute. They give you a 10-minute test before you get on the flight.
I hadn't seen that. Yeah, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that we were talking about on Monday was, does Australia, New Zealand become a much easier place to tour because they're, more sequestered away from the rest of the population, and they'll probably come back a little bit quicker than some other countries and some of the other countries that are further away. And just, it was something that was brought up. It was kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very long to get around Australia and New Zealand. That's about a 2-week tour.
Yep.
What about John, Robert, even Granger, whoever, the idea of a lot more residencies? So tours that stop for 5 days in each place, and, safe people are being bussed in from around to come into that location for those 5 shows or whatever. Is that even?
I think once they set up mobile testing and everybody going in can get tested, that's a possibility.
I remember going into flying into Tokyo in the middle of that SARS deal, and as I was walking off the plane, there was a lot of the Japanese, they all had the face masks on, which is pretty normal for over there 10, 15 years ago. And as I was walking through, I saw the back of a monitor, and I thought, I wonder what these guys are doing. And I turned around and looked, and they had the camera on everybody walking off the plane, and there was little digital temperatures. They had everybody's temperature. So that was 15 years ago, I think, maybe even longer. So I think that you're going to see some things like that are going to be probably more of a probably make the audience feel good kind of thing. Ralphie, shut the fuck up, my dog. Hey, I'm having a call here. I think you're gonna see some of that to make the audience feel a little bit better. And of course, if somebody's walking by at 107 degrees, they're probably get picked out of the crowd. But I don't think there's very many bands that you can really economically bust people into. Vegas, the residencies work because it's Vegas.
People are there, yeah.
And there's no place else like it.
Yeah.
I don't think you do a residency because let's face it, to make money, you got to do the Des Moines, you've got to do the Billings, you've got to do.
Yeah, you're not going to do 5 nights in Des Moines.
Yeah, you're not going to do 5 nights in Billings. You might do 5 minutes in Billings. So you have to be to be careful with all of that. I just.
Well, that's unless they only let you put 100 people in a room at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, me and Paul Hoffman, who's on this call, work with Widespread Panic, who basically does 3-night, 4-night residencies across the country now instead of touring. It's still all based on what the municipalities. They keep pushing shows back further and further and further because we don't know what the local ordinances have or, rules and regulations are happening. You can't really book anything right now. And then it takes 3 months to get it going. Even if they looked at the band now, we don't see anything for 3 months.
That's a great point, but that's where I go back to that point I made earlier, where you put together this consortium of, 5, 6, 10 people who are industry leading people, a promoter who's an independent promoter, a guy like a John Wiseman or Robert Roth, a major manager, an artist, whoever. And you say, okay, here's the goal is that we're going to create a way to do an event for 50,000 or 20,000 or whatever the number is safely, where the goal is that not one person is infected, and we will absolutely put a plan together to make it work. And then you present that plan to the either the Fed or the state government or whoever you have to present it to, and convince them that you're capable of doing this. And basically, the whole industry rides on your shoulders on that one, right?
But that sounds to me like it's adding 2 months to this 3-month cycle.
Well, but are we talking about a 2 or 3 month cycle? Because if you listen to the politicians, they're saying 2021 still.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying is let's prove to them that we're capable of putting a plan together to safely run this. And then, if there's nothing that they can say no to, then they really can't say no at some point, right? And then guess what? If you can make it work somehow, and I believe we, more than most industries that I've ever seen, we're problem solvers in this business. And
Marcel? Nils here. Hello.
Nils
yes, sir.
So I was on a Zoom call earlier today with a guy named with a guy named Thomas Puello, and I don't know if you guys have seen him. He's like a blogger, and his analysis of coronavirus has gotten a lot of traction on Medium and whatnot. But he put up this fascinating chart, which basically showed that if everybody wears high quality masks, the rate of transmission plummets, and the spread of the disease plummets. And I thought that was really interesting. So what I'm kind of curious about in a live entertainment context is, what do you guys think the odds are of being able to mandate masks in events and people actually keeping them on?
I think it has to happen.
I think it's very high. I think you have ushers walking up and down the aisles with flashlights.
Well, think of all the other stuff they enforce, right?
Out.
It seems entirely plausible, but from what I can tell, that is, based on this information, that's the best way to get back on track.
Well, people want to get out, and people want to get out, and they'll probably agree too. I mean, look, I saw something happen on a Kevin Hart tour where I was one of the executive producers, where Kevin wanted everyone to put their cell phones in their pocket.
Yeah.
And I said, this is never going to work. And you know what? I watched them announce it 10 times before Kevin took the stage, and then I watched them physically throw people out. And it's like,
I went to that show. I went to that show, and you know, I'm trying to text and do business because I wasn't a huge fan of the show. I was invited.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to do business and stuff. And they kept coming and warning me that they were going to take my phone from me.
But see,
I was like, "I'm not recording."
I also think that you're going to have the peer factor where, you know, if you've got a whole row of people around you all wearing your mask and you take yours off, they'll fucking self-police it.
But, but how are they going to smoke weed at a show with a mask?
Or drink beer or eat a burger.
That's why they have edibles, Mark.
Oh yeah,
no, but somebody will make a mask that you hook a freaking hose or a doobie.
The strawy mask.
The new bong mask.
Somebody's got a bong mask for sure.
Yeah. You think that would have slowed you down, Fedo?
No, not at all.
I don't think so.
Even with everyone wearing masks, and if we don't have general audience seating, what's going to stop? Are they going to just stop the show if everybody starts rushing the stage as soon as that song comes on? Like, just as a controlling a mass amount of people, you get 500 people in a room. Doesn't matter if they have a seat; they're going to rush the stage as soon as the show starts.
Well, but if you treat wearing a mask no different than, you know, when you take your mask off, it's no different than, you know, pulling a gun out of your pocket or something. That person is going to be escorted out of the building immediately, no questions asked, etc. I think people are going to wear bloody masks.
And I think you got to remember, I really honestly believe this is not something that lasts for years. I think this is, you know, Niels, you're right. I think if everyone wore a mask, I think everyone would probably comply just because they want to get out of their house. They want to go to a show. They're going to be talking to the people next to them. Hey, you know, let's comply. Let's not have any problems. Let's have fun. And then 3 or 4 months later, fucking nobody's going to be wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I mean, people are you know, socially distancing because they're paying attention to the rules. And if the rules are, in order to get out of your house and go see a show, you've got to wear a mask, I think that you're right.
But there's always the asshole who will say "fuck you," you know. There's probably a few of us here.
And this happened in 1918. Just for a bit of perspective, it was a total of 3 years that it lasted. It was January of 1918 to December of 1920 before it was completely gone. So, not to bring it down, but
yeah, great. I'll be dead by then.
They'll come to a faster vaccine than that, though.
Yeah, I
People
mean,
also move around more today, so presumably it spreads faster.
Well,
all this is based on no cure, no vaccine, and no, you know, Theraflu, if you will. So
no herd.
It's all change once that happens.
I still go back to this is killing people that are already sick. I mean, look, I know that sounds really crude, but you know.
Well, the funny one is the guy who got eaten by a shark that died from coronavirus, right?
Yeah, I mean, literally, there was a guy that they had counted on the list as dying of the coronavirus, and then when they dug down a little deeper, and then this was in my newspaper, the guy died in a fucking car wreck. The brick wall killed him. He just happened to have the flu. You know? And so, look, I think there's probably a small percentage of that. I think this is a bad thing.
Yeah.
I just personally don't think it's as bad as they're making it out to be. I just don't. I maybe, you know, just don't.
Well, I think it's as bad as it is, whatever. But I think I'm just a believer that we have to find solutions, not just sit here and wait for the boogeyman to leave the room. We got to find a way to deal with the boogeyman in the room safely, you know. And I believe there's a way, you know. And you start from the extreme where we're at right now, which is no shows whatsoever. More than 4 people can't be in the same room or whatever it is. And you work backwards from there. So how do I get 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people? You know, how can I safely put together life as we know it under these restrictions?
So I'm curious. I love to hear what Jeff Ravitz thinks, because Jeff does a lot of television, but he also does one of the biggest touring acts in the world. So Jeff, you're firmly in both. Your feet are in both camps. What do you think?
Microphone, Jeff. You're muted. I
You
got
gotta
unmute you. Oh,
You press the space bar.
got it.
Can you-
You're unmuted.
yeah. I think the artists are, certain artists are going to be slow to go out there. You know, Bruce is he's a mature artist, and probably isn't going to, race to get out there amongst everybody. Everybody's got their own list of statistics that they believe. And, you have to decide which camp you're in and how big your dice are. I don't really know. I find it all very interesting. Masks, high quality masks, restricting entry to people that test negative at the door. All of that is really interesting. I'll be curious to see what percentage of the population is quick to adopt it, and how many of the artists, we said the club artists, the younger artists, are going to rush right out there. The others may not be so quick to do it. I like the idea, being on the television side of things, of doing more high quality productions. If the artists are comfortable being amongst themselves and a small amount of crew, I think we could do some interesting high quality concert productions. Without audiences, though, everybody has brought up the obvious point that you lack a certain amount of energy. The sports teams are doing it. I don't think stand-up comedy is going to be able to work without an audience, but it's possible that a concert could.
Hey, Jeff, what about for some of the corporate stuff that you've designed for in Vegas? I mean, more importantly, in January and February of next year, are they already in talks of going live, or are they going to postpone, do you think?
Everything that I've heard is that people are, especially the corporations, are kind of squeamish to put themselves out there doing something like that just because of the optics. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I think the corporations get out there and they sponsor the shows. If there can be shows, that's how they get their name back into people's minds.
Yeah, and I've got one question for Patrick Dearson, which is, I've talked to some of the people in the casinos that we had some very preliminary pre-production work, and for stuff in the fall, and he said, we've been told that it may not be until second quarter of 2021, and I wanted to see if you've heard that same thing, because that was a mind-blowing shock to me that was even going to be that far out.
I'll tell you exactly what the precursor of that to me was Granger. A couple of weeks ago, he told us that we were pushing all major acts to renegotiate contracts for 2021. And I think that that's one of the most telling things as to how we're going to handle this as an industry. And I think everybody, it sucks, but I think everybody's got to settle in for the long kiss goodnight, because this is not going to be fast. This discussion alone proves the crazy challenges that we do have to try and overcome, not just within our own industry, but from social nature, particularly in something that our industry helps propagate, this sort of rebellious attitude, and everything that we have all stood for, both personally and in business and socially. There's a lot to this, and unfortunately, I think we're really going to bear the brunt of it. And I think there's a large portion of this that we're being selfish about. We're certainly being selfish, as everybody's going to be, about trying to save their phony baloney jobs, as best as possible. It is irresponsible to have a mass gathering. Any way you cut it, it doesn't fucking matter. It's irresponsible. Everybody should be in their damn homes as long as they possibly can. We're pushing to get out.
Well, I carefully
but,
say to you, Patrick, that I disagree. So okay. It's irresponsible to jump out of an airplane. It's irresponsible to fire a weapon. It's irresponsible to ride a bicycle in traffic. It's irresponsible to drive over the speed limit. Most of our life is lived a little bit on the edge, right? We don't live in a bubble. So
Hey,
There's a big difference between all those things you just said. If you jump out of a plane, that's your risk.
I
The person that
understand.
gets hurt.
No, I
is
understand,
you.
and I'm not
If
reckless.
you speed on the highway, you are a risk to everyone on the road. So they're not analogous situations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
and if
think-
you kill 100 people at one time with, one person hits 40 to 100 people, and that's how many go. You have your
But again, the difference is personal responsibility. So I am a parent that never sent my kid to school when he had the flu. And when he was obviously contagious, sneezing all over his arms and stuff. And I never sent my kid to school because he's going to get a bunch of other kids sick. And why do that, right? So if I know that I'm sick and I go to a concert, then I'm an asshole. Or I go to a movie, or I go to a restaurant, or I go to anywhere, I'm an asshole. But if I know that I'm sick and I take personal responsibility and I stay home, then, we're okay, right? So
Marcel, there's a lot of assholes out there.
Right.
Okay? So,
Right. No, I understand. But what I'm saying is I'm not saying that we go do a 100,000 person festival tomorrow or something. I'm just saying that I don't think we're being irresponsible in talking about having mass gatherings.
So I have a question. I have a question for Patrick. Hey, Patrick, I hear everything you're saying. I don't completely disagree with it all. But when you make a statement like you need to stay home and you need to do these things, I understand that. At what point is the tipping point where you would say it's okay not to do that? I mean, what's the criteria for you to go, let's flip that?
I'm not really sure, to be perfect.
I get it.
And I don't think anybody can possibly truly answer.
That's the biggest problem, is that we don't know what the fuck that is, right? Like right now, I'm as vocal about not believing this shit to the depth that everyone as anybody. However, I choose to stay home and be safe because it's smarter to do that than to just be an asshole, right? And I could be an asshole pretty easy and just go fuck it and go wherever. But at the point is, what you're saying is absolutely correct. I just, even though I disbelieve, I'm of the mind of, you know what? I got to be responsible here to my neighbors and to my city, and not, I might have it right now and I might be spreading it right now, So if I do go to the grocery store, which by the way, I was at the grocery store yesterday and I put on rubber gloves and I put on a mask and I wiped down the thing. There was fucking 500 people in that grocery store, but you can't go to church. So, there's too many different messages. That's the problem for me. And it's not the president. It's not the government. It's not the governor. It's not the Democrats. There's just so much messaging that you can't even fucking get it straight because you don't know what it is. What is it? And when does it flip?
Yeah. No,
John, there's also perfectly healthy people that die from the virus too. Okay, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, very small.
You don't need
very
to be
small.
open.
That's a very small number as a percentage. Most people are not healthy.
This brings up an interesting topic, because this is something I've been speaking about privately in conversations for weeks, because it's a very unpopular public conversation to have. At what point do we accept the fact that the economy is more important than saving some lives?
It's a great question. You know what? It's a great question. You know what? The other thing too is that you hear, I go back to the statistics thing, which I just vehemently disagree with. I made a comment here that you can, my dad was a lawyer and he said, you can say liar 3 ways: liar, goddamn liar, and statistician. Right. And so, when I hear the media say 750 people died in New York yesterday, I go, well, okay, well, there's 9 million people there. If one person dies, that's a sad thing. But how many people normally die in a city of 900, right? I mean, and I think I'm just pissed off I'm not being told the truth. And I'm not being told the truth on purpose. It's not that they don't.
I live in New York and I hear sirens all night long, every day. And that's not normal.
Well, buddy, I'm in New York all the time, and I hear sirens every day too. That's a statement that doesn't. I can't.
No,
connect the
it's
two.
way up from what it normally is. I don't hear them all night long, every night.
I don't go. Or maybe
out.
you just notice them more now because you're seeing it on the news every 15 minutes.
I have a quick question. Do you know anybody personally who has passed away in the past month, corona related or not?
Passed away? You mean just died, related or not?
Related or not in the past month?
I do not.
Because I have a handful of people that I know personally who fought it hard. Some survived, some didn't.
Okay.
So I might have a different perspective and a
totally
different
cool.
feeling about it. And I'm sure once it hits home for you, you might feel differently.
No, look, I'm not disputing. The first thing I said was if one person dies, that's a horrible, horrible thing. Look, I've had a lot of people die in my life, like everybody on this call has had a lot of people die in their life. It's a horrible, horrible experience. I would say to you, I have sympathy and I have empathy, and it's a horrible thing. But I would also say to you, that's a broad generalized statement because you don't know, I don't think, I could be wrong, each one of those person's medical history. I have not heard, it doesn't mean that it's not true, but I have not heard of someone who's 22 years old, who's perfectly healthy, and has died because of this coronavirus 100%. It's the complete and total 100% cause of their death. Now, I could be wrong, but I go back to the statistics thing. Number one death, in a car accident where someone's killed is bad. It's horrible. And I have empathy, but you know, the people, your friends who have died and the people that you know, I'm sorry, but I don't know each one of their specific medical histories. There was a woman in Nevada who was 33 years old and she died of the coronavirus. Okay. And it spun the whole state into craziness because it's like, oh my God, this has just killed a woman in her 30s who's completely healthy. Well, they did her autopsy and she had stage 4 undiagnosed leukemia. Okay. So, you know, when you dig down a little bit further, to me, and I'm not trying to be rude or crass. Or
yeah. I mean, they've dug down into plenty of cases in New York with perfectly healthy people. One of the Broadway stars, lead singer for, two Broadway shows, Tony Award winning, they just amputated his leg.
No, look, I'm not saying that's not the case, but I'm saying, but how many people died of obesity yesterday? Okay.
Again, it's not really the same comparison. And there are people who are perfectly healthy who are dropping dead after getting this. Now, yes, is it a small percentage? Sure. I'll agree with you that it's a small percentage.
How does it relate to other diseases, other flus? That's my point.
Without diving deep into the science of this.
Yeah, I can't do that.
The basis of thing is that it breaks an immune system down and exploits what is already the weak point in your body. That's how the thing works.
And it's horrible.
Okay, I got one for you.
Yeah, you can't go through people's personal medical histories in every case because every case is different, and that is in essence the horrible thing about this particular virus, but is also the caution that comes with it because, yes, we had that woman here in Nevada die. We find out she's got leukemia. Well, I may have something, but I'm young and perfectly healthy.
But Patrick, the thing is, like, so let's say someone, the magic coronavirus fairy came along and said, this is going to be 2 years or this is going to be 3 years. And you can either stay in your house and you'll never get it because, there's nothing coming in, nothing going out. You've pretty much blocked out the outside world. You're going to be safe. Or you can go out into public. There's a 3%, 2%, depends whose numbers you're looking at, but there's a percent of a chance that you're going to get it. And then of that percent chance that you're going to get it, there's a percent of those people that could die from it.
Well, and you could mitigate it with a mask.
You can mitigate it with a mask. Like Nils said, it knocks it down exponentially. So they give you all of these facts and they say, so here's your choice, Mr. Dearson. You can leave your house. You have to tell me now. You either have to stay in your house the next 3 years or you have to leave your house and accept the risk. personally, I accept the risk because life is for the living. You know, I'm not going to live in my
most people
house
would
for.
Don't accept the risk. You get in your car and you go on the highway, right?
Well, but I mean, everything in life. For me, I'd rather have an adventure than, you know, be alive till I'm 150 years old and do absolutely nothing and live in a bubble. Now,
Yeah, but you want to be smart about it. You don't go out and purposely put yourself in situations that are going to kill you.
well,
And
I
that's when it
did. I
gets-
mean, I was in a rock band when I was in my young years, and
Oh,
you
look,
know,
no one's
this
tried
was
to die more.
pre-AIDS, and nobody knew about a lot of the things. that were happening.
Nobody tried to die
Let's
harder
talk
than me.
about you and I for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
35 years ago, 40 years
Yeah,
ago. Okay?
yeah.
All right. What else is going on, guys?
Yeah,
so, you know,
I
I,
think
so
so.
I got a question now because we're not doing our normal jobs. There's obviously some things that are going to come in place as we move forward. You know, and this is maybe a shameless plug to start with, but you have a lot of lighting designers, a lot of creative people, a lot of, you know, technicians and industry leaders. You know, we're hearing a lot about this disinfectants and, you know, this UVC lighting. And I think there's an opportunity for all of us who are sitting around doing nothing to get on the phones and start reaching out to people that we know outside of our industry even.
I need to
come
meet
up
these
with creative
people who are
ways.
doing nothing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know these people. Like
Yeah.
I talked with Robert earlier today, and you know, I'm as busy as I've ever been.
Well, I think there's a lot of freelancers and technicians and
Yeah.
lighting designers that don't have a lot of work
Yeah,
that's
there
happening
are.
right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, outside of our normal circle and market segment, you know, there's going to be industries that can benefit from our expertise. You know, they're going to look to us as our expertise from a lighting profession and to help them with this new avenue of promoting their business being a more safe environment to be in, whether it's a grocery store that's been disinfected with UVC light, or the restaurant overnight, or the movie theaters, you know, screening rooms, any of that kind of stuff. So this might be an opportunity for people that
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Aaron. There's a whole industry being created between you know, PPE and these UVC devices. And you know, UVC, I don't know, for those of you who don't know, it's basically lighting fixtures that have a particular wavelength of UV LEDs in them that are known to clean things, so they disinfect things and whatever, so you can hang them in a gym or a grocery store or whatever. And you can't have people in the room though, so they have to be done at night or off hours or whatever. But there's a whole industry.
There are some ones that you can have people in the room with. They're not direct, so they pass air through a chamber.
Right.
with the
Yeah,
light.
yeah, but direct.
and those are for aerial, not surface
Yeah.
terms. So there's
Yeah.
two different
Correct.
products in place.
But here's the point that I want to make quickly. And so I have an LED company, and we've been approached with a lot of these UVC products. And in my LED company, I may do some of those things, and I am doing some of those things. In this industry company, I'm not. And we did a little bit with upstaging, and that went okay. And we sold some of their PPE stuff, their masks and stuff. But the problem that I had and have with that is I want to focus on my core business. I want to focus on improving my core business so that when we are able to do shows, which I don't believe is 2021, I think it's going to happen this year still. But when we are able to do shows and installs and events and different things, I'm fully prepared for that. And I don't have to pivot again from being a PPE company to being, you know, in this industry. So I think you have to look at all of those things, but you really have to think about it. Like I know people who are pivoting permanently out of our industry because they just can't afford to stay alive in this industry anymore. So they've had to completely look to do something else.
God, you know, where the hell do you pivot to? Everything is closed. Everything.
Amazon warehouse.
There you go.
Yeah, Amazon warehouse is good.
Store, home
Yeah.
improvement store.
No, but if you look at the list,
IT
So-
companies and graphic arts companies are hiring more and more. There's jobs being
Absolutely.
created from this.
No, but absolutely. Zoom, you know, this type of a company. But the thing is, even if you look at businesses that are closed, what you do is you start to look at those closed businesses. And if we're at the very back of the line, who's at the front of the line? Who's second in line? Who's third in line? And you start looking at those industries and focusing really on being ready to open a business in the food service industry in the next 30 days, or in, whatever, I don't know, but in the next, like gyms are going to open, which, to me, I don't remember the exact words, but it's a cesspool of germs basically in a gym. Like, I feel bad on a good day going to a gym and touching equipment and going, ew, what did I just touch? Right. But, I don't know. Like, I think companies are going to pivot. I just think you have to be careful about pivoting today's business, because you're going to lose out on the massive opportunity that our industry is going to represent when the clouds lift a little bit. And what that timing is, who knows? I don't. I wish I did. That's the magical number, right?
Yep. I think it's going into the industry of the UV light and masks and rubber gloves for the adult entertainment industry for the local strip clubs. I mean, I think there's a really good business right there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because those are going to
at least lots of market research.
I'm surprised that wasn't Dearson's comment. I got to be honest with you.
I was trying to.
Dearson's gone dark in the last couple weeks. Like, he's gone from being this super freaking. I think he's also become, hate to say it, he's become a liberal a little bit. So Dearson has definitely changed in the past couple of weeks to where he's gone from, cup is 3/4 full to, where the hell did the cup go? It's empty and gone.
I still want to talk about the benefits of ice, my friend.
There you go. There you go. There you go. No, I mean, I wish we had all the answers. We definitely don't. I still, I'm super positive. Those who know me and those who have been on this call for the last 4 or 5 weeks, that I'm going to keep digging to try and get things to happen. And yet at the same time, I mean, Emily, you made a very good point. And unless someone, who has, God forbid, died from this, but even like I literally know 4 people who at least have told me that they were infected with it. And all 4 of them were in Canada, which is the most bizarre thing. And all 4 were in Alberta, where the numbers have been pretty low. And they're all better. And they all basically have said, that it's ridiculous how heavily we're treating this thing and blah, blah, blah. It's such a joke. I didn't even know I had it. All 4 are basically saying the same thing. However, I realize that's not the same in every situation. And some people, like Emily said, have been impacted much more heavily. So I don't know. I wish we had the answers.
We all want to get back to work as fast as possible. That's definitely not even anything for discussion. And we all hope that it's sooner than later. But we also realize that it's not our decision, unfortunately. And that's the part that sucks, is it the unknown and who's deciding that and how it's going to be decided is terrifying.
So I just have to know, David Milley, is that a background like on your Zoom thing, or is that really where you're sitting right now?
That's my backyard.
You bastard. I love that. That's amazing. Good for you. So did you sell the RV now and get a boat again?
Sold the boat and got an RV.
But now you're in a marina.
Well, this is my house at the marina, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Apparently it's a floating RV.
There you go.
From land to sea, venturing all the time. Hi,
you got to be dying for a boat again, though, David.
I have a little pontoon boat. I just got rid of the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you, man. It's good to see you. Anyone else have anything?
I was just going to say, this is really interesting how, I lean toward more what John Weissman thinks. I think we're over-exaggerating this thing. Insurance companies do this, you're going to die, and that's why we charge you this much money for life insurance. Actuaries, right? Well, there's an actuary to whether you're going to die or not. And if you just happen to catch this virus and you're really unhealthy anyway, I mean, somebody just said it attacks whatever your ailment was. If you go back to how many people died of flu this year versus how many people died of this virus, it's almost like more people died of the flu. So
well, yeah, but I think more people died of the flu because we've taken this virus seriously, and we have done the things that, like the flu's become such a normal, commonplace thing to us. There's actually a flu season now, like a baseball season, and so we're a little bit what's the word? Kind of Desensitized. We're desensitized to it. However, this thing comes out of nowhere, and we suddenly start doing things like, you know, I wore rubber gloves and a mask at a fucking grocery store yesterday. Okay,
John, I did too, but I tell you what, half the people in that grocery store didn't.
No, most of them didn't have it. So I'm just trying to, you know, look. I don't want to sound like some, you know, right-wing Republican nut job that I probably am anyway. But at the end of the day, you know, I think it is better to be safe than sorry. But I think we're gonna get over this. I think my biggest frustration with it all is that, you know, everybody on this call is used to getting the job done, right? And having a goal and marching towards it. And when people say to you, aren't you enjoying the time off? I go, fuck no, I'm not enjoying the time off because I don't know when it's over. If someone said to me, you're going back to work and everything's going to be normal on May 2nd, I'd be overjoyed because then I could enjoy myself.
Amen,
every
John.
single day.
Absolutely.
You just don't know. And so, David, there's you know, there's this curve that they talk about, the apex. Well, there's another apex going on, and that's our understanding and our ability to operate. And I think that's changing every day too. You know, look, I want everybody to be happy and healthy, and I want to be smart about this, you know. But I also think you don't burn your house down because you found some spiders in it.
Well, I agree, but if you look at what the Air Force graduation in Colorado was this weekend, where you had these guys 6 foot apart, spread out, if that's what a concert of the future looks like, people are not going to go to a concert of the future that look like that.
That'll be the concert of the future for about 2 months, and then either everyone's going to get really sick and it's going to go back to where we are today, which is totally possible to happen, or it's going to go back to whatever normal was 6 months ago, you know. And I'm the eternal optimist. I'm rooting for everyone to be safe, everyone to be well, and everyone get back to normal.
Yeah, find a cure or a vaccine, something.
Yeah.
Going back a bit to my earlier statement about the irresponsibility of this, because we kind of jumped a bit into a different direction. What I was getting at was basically what David had just pointed out, is the fact that you're at a grocery store and most people aren't wearing that protection. The building I live in, I live on the Las Vegas Strip. I am surrounded by a bunch of self-centered, sycophant morons in this building. Those are just my neighbors. It is what it is. There's a bunch of poker players that like to live a crazy life, and they're not really the most socially conscious people on the planet. They're largely the audience. And I think that's where my term of the irresponsibility part of it comes into play, because I feel that we're going to push to put people in these mass gatherings, understanding that a large portion of them are going to be like, fuck it, I don't believe in it. It's a ghost. You guys are all crazy. I'm doing what I want. And that's where it gets really difficult. It becomes, I think, increasingly more difficult to police. And that those are the real challenges we have as we start trying to put our business back into the global economy.
I think you're absolutely right, Patrick. And the you know, even coming from my point of view, I would very easily stand up and say, look, we're going to have a concert, and everyone's going to, like Neil said, the science has proven that it reduces greatly, it mitigates the chance of you getting sick by you wearing a mask. So you're going to wear a fucking mask at this concert and throw out people that don't. Just do it.
I do think it brings.
I mean, they're doing that at stores here in Jersey. They're throwing you out if you don't have a mask.
Well, and they should right now. And they should right now. You know what?
They don't let you in.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's absolutely the correct way to do it. You know, I don't want to. Like all those kids down at spring break, you know, a lot of them got really sick, and I'm glad they did. Fuck them. You know, they weren't supposed to be out there doing that. You know, if I'm going to sit here at home and if I'm going to follow the motherfucking rules, so are they. Because I'm not really a big rule follower. I don't think you are either, Patrick.
No, I think most of
it wasn't before.
That kind of goes for anybody in this business.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're gonna do something, this is another thing that we all do. If we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it right. and we're going to do it the best way possible. So if the commitment is to be safe and be responsible to the people next to you, either fucking, do it right. Don't, just do it right.
Well, it's like picking up after your dog. Fucking join society. You don't leave it there. Like, you're going to have one that's responsible.
Man, and I'll tell you what, nothing pleases me more than seeing someone not pick that up, because I will jump in their shit.
With Adam.
Literally?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know
You're going to go jump in the dog shit? All right, folks, I have to jump. I appreciate all of you. And I also appreciate that, we're all finding our way to different views and stuff too. I mean, Patrick keeps changing sides every week, but most of us, I think, are
don't you mean Carol?
Yeah, Carol keeps changing sides every week. That bitch Carol keeps changing sides.
That's so funny.
I'm just kidding, Patrick. I understand. I mean, the thing is, it's easy to change sides when pressures hit you or banks screw you or.
I don't think it's so much changing sides, but I think that you'll agree with me. I think a lot of people on this call will agree with me, because the majority of the faces here are really significant people in this business, on the business side of things. And it's the one thing that I've been struggling with is trying to maintain being that business pillar to a lot of people. I have so many people coming to me for advice and answers and some clarity to the future and how to deal with this, that you just wake up on some of these mornings and you're like, I don't know if I can fucking put on the smiley face.
Hey, you know what? I got to tell you something too. And I think this probably fits for everybody on this call. Myself personally, as forceful as I can be in personality, is that nothing pleases me more than to be proven wrong, because that just means I learned the right way to do it, or I learned something. I'll take a position, I'll take a stance, and then if someone can prove me wrong, it's like, okay, great, let's go down that path. It's like when you're
right all the time.
Yeah, when you're solving a problem at a gig, it doesn't have to be the way I think it is. I want it to be the right way so we can move on to the next thing. I don't think anyone's so ensconced in their belief that they're right. I mean, I'm not. Look, I'll make a really good argument, and then I'll fold my tent immediately when I know I'm wrong, because I just want to get it right and move on to it. And I think that's what everybody on this call is.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Even you, Mokri.
Did anyone notice Mokri shut off his video so he could eat ribs? It's freaking unbelievable, Robert. I saw your first couple bites and then you shut off the video because you're like, oh, this is disgusting.
Yeah, I knew it was going to get ugly.
Not even dinner time, dude.
That's funny.
Just wait till you start, if you get a PPP loan, wait till you start studying the forgiveness shit. If you think,
well, most of us study it before we get the loan, Robert.
Well, I did too. I thought I had I thought it's a mess.
Yeah.
And once you get it, and then you look at, you could end up owing the SBA 6 figures at the end, because really it's up to the bank. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and by the way, in the case of Chase Bank, even though it's an unsecured loan and there's no personal, they put a line in there saying, oh, but we can still sue you.
Well, you were pretty smiley and confident last week, and I was going, oh, okay, Robert. Okay,
hey, Robert. I can sue you right now if I just feel like it. So that doesn't really mean anything.
That's true. And he just may, Robert. He just may. John has been known to do that.
So. I want my 20% of those ribs.
Yeah. Were they good?
In the words of Robert Mokri, you can always give the money back. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't let this sway you from taking the
Exactly. Get the money.
I mean, we could still
do fucking words last week.
Yeah.
Oh, there was no question I was high on it. I'll freely admit it. But that it's, and then I've kind of swung back the other way and went, well, I'm in the boat with all those other people, so we're just gonna hold on to it and ride it out and do the best we can on the forgiveness.
That's all you can do, Robert.
How much did you get, Robert?
121.
That's an odd number.
Why?
They do an average of what your payroll is for 2.5 months, and that's the way it turned out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
but did you apply to Chase?
Pardon?
When did you apply to Chase? On what day?
Hell, I'd have to look at a calendar. I believe April 3rd.
Wow.
So it was the first day that it went live, you filled out that small application and then they called you back? Is that how that worked?
Oh yeah, I was hawking it like crazy. Reload. Because Chase was 24 hours behind when it came to notification for what was going on their site.
Right.
So I saw it, as soon as it went live, I filled out the form, and then I kept looking, and then the second form came up and filled that out. And then the day later, I get an email from Chase. Oh yeah, we're open. So it's a mess.
Wild. Yeah.
I really suggest reading Strickland's paper that's on their site. He and I corresponded a little bit about it yesterday, and there were some pretty hopeful things there because, okay, in the case of us, I'd have to bring all the people back, okay? So and there's 9 of us. I let go 4. There's 5 left. I have to bring those other people back to do nothing. Oh, and by the way, when you sign that loan document, you say it's necessary for us to stay in operations, right? So the question arises, are those 4 people really necessary or not? What would be better for us is if we got 16 weeks to pay it back and pay my staff and stay open so we could continue to pay taxes for years going forward. And I'm hoping that the guidance will be updated to reflect those realities.
Yeah. No, I think that there will be updated guidance, as you say, Robert, because it's also only a couple of months. So,
That's right.
if our pain is going to last 6 months, 4 months, 12 months, whatever the number is, then that 2 months of payroll isn't really going to help us very much.
You get to a point of no return.
Well, we're still screwed, but now we owe the government $121,000, as you said. So, that's the problem. So, I mean, I think a lot of businesses are using that money to help them pivot into a different version of their business, a new business altogether, a whatever. And, I don't know whether or not you're able to do that. I know for me, we just plan to use the money to pay our staff, and we're using other money because the thing is, it's not just PPP. The SBA has like the EIDL loan, for example,
that's
the
correct.
disaster loan, which is very good interest rates, very nice payback terms. The first $200,000 has no PG on it, personal guarantee. And you can get up to, I think, $10 million. And so what I was looking at that for is to help with some software changes that I'm making to our platform that are very, very hundreds of thousands of dollars expensive. And the government will allow you to use that money for that type of effect. And so, while they're in the lending mood, I'm in the borrowing mood, believe me. And not because I'm going to go buy boats or cars, but I'm going to use it to improve my business. And I think that's a great opportunity today. So one thing, Steve, Warren, you've been very quiet. Europe, is anything new, different? Is the mood lifting? Are the clouds going away, or are we still all screwed?
I'd love to give you some news on that front, but
there is none.
Wow, there is none.
Yeah.
I was really lifted up by what Niels was saying, and you're thinking, well, at some point they're going to have to compromise, aren't they? Because it's not going to go away. It seems it's not going to go away forever.
Yeah.
So you're going to get to a point, I agree with you, that people are not going to want to stay in, and we'll get to a point where they'll take some level of risk and accept some level of risk. We've all driven too fast. We've driven motorbikes. I certainly, for one, when you're out sort of jumping around in a crowd at 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't know who you're next to. I think I don't really give it an awful lot of thought.
If you've been to Burning Man, you're risk adverse, yeah.
Yeah, or Glastonbury,
or
anything.
not risk adverse.
A little bit of
a little
bit of risk in your life.
Yeah.
I was wondering, when people sort of, for example, when they go to get drinks, that's the point where things get handed to you. You take something. Is it a case where you start carrying your own cup like you do at all festivals, and you put your cup under the tap to have it filled? Do you look then when people go to the bathrooms? Are there people there who are cleaning the place constantly? You must be able to bring the risk down by.
Well, guess what? Maybe God forbid we don't actually drink at festivals for a little while, for the first month, for the first couple of months or whatever. I don't.
put my own cup underneath somebody else's tap.
Yeah.
I was thinking of just equipment branded colostomy bags, and you don't have to worry about bathrooms then.
Exactly. Taking you back to my drive-in concert idea.
Yeah.
That brings a whole new meaning to swag.
Yeah.
But Marcel, I'm with you that, you know, we're going to have to sort of put our collective brains towards this and saying, okay, you know, maybe the sizes of these things are going to be limited, whether it's 1,000 or 1,500. There's a lot of gigs under 1,500. And as you say, multiple nights and start looking at, well, how do we deal with this? Because I suppose my feeling is I worry more about the 1-2 year scenario or longer, you know, where it's staying residually in our community.
I don't remember, I think it was Wiseman or somebody who said about the RNC and the DNC, you know, doing their conventions over here, the Republican convention, the Democratic convention. The government's going to find a way to do it. You know, they're still going to do their conventions. They're still going to have a bunch of people there. So if the government can figure it out, I tend to think we're smarter than they are, and we should be able to figure it out. And granted, we don't make the rules, but we can present a very good case study or a solution to the government saying, I think we can do an event. Here's why. And, you know, you go to them just like you would with any other problem, and you present it to them and say, you know, we want to do a show and we think we can do it safely. Here's how we've done that.
I think one of the biggest problems is, you know, we talk about smaller shows, and, you know, our business is not built on 500 to 1,500 seat shows. You know, our capital investment and the crews that we run and the shows that we put on and the designs that people want to have, we just, you know, if everyone's doing 25 to 5,000 seat shows, we're out of business. It's not sustainable. You can't do it.
Well, it's better than 0 seats. Is it
you know,
more expensive to?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to work hard while I go broke. I'd rather just sit here and go broke.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd rather go down fighting. That's just who I am.
If you sit there longer, you know, if you sit there longer and it goes away sooner because everybody sat there longer.
Yeah, but how do you know that? How do you know that? You know, I mean, how do you know that? We don't. Yeah, but we don't have. We don't have any. You know, there's no. If you do this, then this happens. If you do this, then this happens. There's really no case studies on what we're going through right now. So we're assuming the government and we're assuming the government and a few doctors are 100% correct. You have a halo over your head right now, Chris, and it's really bugging me. Look at Chris with a halo on his head.
To you from the lower.
I love that. That's hilarious.
That is the smallest halo I've ever seen.
Well, if you've met Chris, you know he deserves a small halo. Yeah. Gumper, not many people needing mega structures today, I'm guessing.
No, just working on some more fab stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know.
I think you should build mega hospitals. Isn't that like a possibility?
The problem is every venue's already empty, so.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't need to build any.
That's true.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing here in Las Vegas in terms of, or I should say throughout the country, in terms of the really waning needs on hospitals. And I think it kind of goes also back to Emily's point earlier of how personally affected you get by your exposure to the reaction.
Well, I think Patrick, it's also directly related to the oversell on this whole thing from the very earliest time.
If you're in New York, those hospitals are maxed out. They have a real problem on their hands and are really struggling with it. And I think that the same can be said for just about any major metropolitan area with a super heavy population density. In Las Vegas,
they were
South Florida. Who has more old people than Florida? And our hospitals are empty.
We're talking about buildings of people compressed in with each other, locked in with this stuff. Now, let me finish.
Well, you said any major city.
In Las Vegas, we're at 43% of our hospital capacity, and medical workers are being laid off because we just don't have the need.
Yeah, because people aren't going for regular, like if you were going to go for an elective surgery, you're probably holding off right now, right?
Certainly, yes, of course that's happening. And I think that the biggest thing that the Las Vegas hospitals are seeing are people cutting themselves with their steak knives trying to make dinner at night.
That's funny.
Reality is they just don't have this massive hit of virus-related medical response that's necessary. Whereas in New York, you absolutely are seeing that. There's a correlation to that population density.
Yeah.
You know, I go back to that my comment about statistics. So you may have seen on the news that one of the new hot spots is Truckee, California. It's a little bitty city up by Tahoe, right? And so I have a friend that's a doctor up there, and I called him and I said, hey, I heard you guys are the hot spot. What are you doing? He goes, are you kidding me? I'm bored stiff out of my mind. I said, well, hold on a second. I'm just seeing that you're a hot spot. He said, look, we have 16 beds here. 2 beds are always full no matter what's going on. He said, we've got 6 people in here now. 2 of them have the virus. So our capacity went up by like 300 or 400%. That's why we're a hot spot. So it's like, really, they got 16 beds and 6 of them are full, but they usually have 2. So now they're
statistics
300 or 400% above. I mean, I actually called the guy because I was worried about him, and I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm taking classes online to get my boards. And I go, what do you mean? He's like, the guy goes, I'm bored out of my mind. I'm doing continuing education. So, you know, again, there's nothing good about this.
Jamie Brock, I have to call on you just because you've looked so prepared to talk into that microphone for like an hour and a half now. And you just need to say something.
I gotta bail, guys. Talk to you later, man.
See you, John.
My only comment on the whole thing is, you know, if there were 14,000 deaths in Dallas and 300 in New York City, the perspective would be completely different from those folks in those kinds of areas. I mean, the way the impact has happened, and geographically, we all know that the media is centered in New York City, so it is. There's a lot of people who've died in New York. It's bad. You know, we gotta.
I think for most of us who are sensible, I don't care whether people are dying in Dallas or New York or Des Moines, Iowa, or, you know, Canada or whatever. You don't want anybody to die anywhere. To me, it doesn't matter where it is. And yes, New York has been hit harder. Italy's been hit harder. But, you know, you can't create a European policy around what's happening in Italy. You have to look at every different place and create policies in those places. And same here in the United States, right? But anyways, we're getting too far into the expertise zone. And I have to go because I literally have to jump on another freaking
on this call.
What's that?
I said there are no actual scientists on this call.
No, other than Wiseman, and he's gone. So anybody got any good John Wiseman jokes? Yeah.
Well, we just started a pivot with our company. We just started a brewery for the moment.
Oh, there you go. That's a good idea. No shortage of alcoholism at this point in life.
Started day
It's
drinking.
a booming business.
Yeah, that's a great pivot. You know, nobody needs a new DMX, but everybody needs beer. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Folks, I love you all. And thank you very much for coming again. And I'm going to invite you again next week. And we're going to change the time back to 5 o'clock. Anybody protest that?
Nope. No.
All right,
Oh,
good.
good.
Great.
Good.
Marcel, thanks for putting this together.
No,
Hi, guys.
thank you for coming, David.
Fun.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody wash your darn hands.
Wash your hands.
Stay clean.
See you guys.
Take it easy.